Hey everybody, I had a couple of requests just recently on how to tape a finger that has been sprained. So that is either a sprained ligament or a sprained tendon, and it can have been from anything from a sport such as fighting and boxing, or accidentally jamming your finger and pulling it back in a weird direction. So this video is going to show you how to properly tape and support that sprained or strained area, and we're going to be using a couple of different types of tape. All right, so the first tape we're going to use is a white zinc oxide tape. This one's from Kramer, same type of tape you would traditionally use to tape an ankle. But essentially what you're going to do is create a anchor piece that just goes around the wrist itself, like so. Okay. And as well, if you've got some hair, this stuff's usually pretty good in the short term, but if you don't want to have the hair ripped off from the tape, you can either shave the skin clean prior, or you can use a under wrap tape as well, which I'll show you in another video. Okay, so now what we've done is we've figured out which direction we've hurt that finger. In this case, let's assume that we hurt our finger going into a punch, or in a direction that caused us to close the fist, or if we landed on it awkwardly, for example. So a ligament is basically something that holds the bone to bone together. You've got one on the top, one on the bottom, one on the inside, one on the outside, and that's pretty traditional for any of the joints that we comprise of our fingers. So let's assume that our injury occurred this way. So therefore, if I go this way, the pain is pretty intense. That way should actually feel a little bit better. So I don't want to tape into the direction of pain. That just will make it uncomfortable and annoyed. I want to tape it out of that position. So what we're going to do is use another piece of tape called Leukotape. Now this stuff's a little stronger, called Leukotape P. There's different sizes. This one is probably it's 3.8 centimeters, so it's at a couple of inches. And what I've done is I've ripped it into some smaller strands. So you can basically just pull it. You can either tear it, rip it, or you can cut it, just depending on the diameter or the length that you're looking for. So let's say I've created my angle. I've gone over top of that joint that's painful. I've come across my hand, and then I've come around to basically anchor it onto the white tape. And if you feel like there's a little bit of too much tension, you can always rework it. But basically, now when I go to punch or pull, I already feel some tension in that tape, and that should actually take away some of the stress from my ligament. Okay, so for the second piece of tape, I've just cut a smaller piece, or ripped a smaller piece. And then what I want to do is I want to create a crisscross system. So I'm just trying to get the camera angle right here so we can crisscross over the piece. So I've created an X. Now I've come up, and my line of pull will now be in the other direction. So I've come across now, I've created an X right where that ligament that had gotten injured is, and then I can just basically wrap it around the other direction to meet my piece in the middle. So essentially I've now created an X over top. So when I go to throw that punch, I've got a lot of strength now in that tape. This Leukotape is very, very strong. And again, I can clean it up a little bit. I can kind of trim the edges. It's almost just like a Band-Aid. But basically that should provide me some support on the top section. So when I throw that punch, the tape is now taking some of the force off of my ligament. And we can use another layer, so we can double that again with this brown tape if you'd like. Or just so we don't feel like we're overdoing it, because we still want some dexterity in our hands, is we can actually just use the white tape as a way to clean it up, or we can actually use K-tape, which is a kind of more of like a stretchier type of adhesive tape. And there's a bunch of different brands. There's KT tape, there's rock tape. They're all basically the same thing for the most part. I know people have different preferences. This one here I have at the moment is pre-cut strands. You can also get them where the strands are not pre-cut, so you can cut your own. Now this piece is pretty long, so I can probably get a couple of pieces out of this tape. Just cut it down the middle. I can start down low usually, so create a bit of a hold, come across, and then I can basically take it up. And again, what you'll notice with this K-tape, there's a whole bunch of different ways to do this, but just for this technique, I'm starting with a fairly neutral position, so my hand is straight. I can come up and I can basically affix it down. I could have left it a little longer and gone all the way around as well for more anchor. But in this case, I'll just use the small piece that I cut. And what we can do is make sure we've got that same strip going. So now I've created another anchor point. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come around the other way. Again, I'm trying to keep it as close to the joint as I can, and then I can basically come through, attach it, and affix it. This piece is not going very well, but then come across like that. So I've now created basically a double anchor piece. This has now given me some pretty good strength, and now I've got that power when I punch or grab or pull. And what you'll also notice too is I've created that, by creating that X, I've also supported the inside ligament, and I've also supported the outside ligament, depending on which angle you're looking from. And again, I could have taken this a little bit higher up just to give it a little bit more support. So now I've got a pretty good solid anchor. Got to watch that my fingers not change in color. You can tell my circulation comes back pretty quick. Maybe just a little tight, so I may have to loosen that up just a little bit, just to give my circulation a chance to breathe. But essentially, that should feel nice and sturdy. And that position, obviously we can clean this up again, just to make it look a little bit nicer and less all over the place, and make sure that it's nice and stable. So now I've got a pretty good cleaned up looking piece of tape. Again, you can adjust the pressure and the resistance, make sure that it's all edges are clean and sturdy, and then from here I can basically now go out, fight, get into my training session, whatever, and that ligament should feel very supported, very strong, until I need to tape it again. Little disclaimer, if you start to get itchy with this stuff, or you start to notice your fingers kind of going purple or numb or losing feeling or sensation, obviously a tape is too tight. You gotta loosen it up and change it up. Or if it causes more pain with it on than without it, again, redo it, find another way to affix it. But this is one that I just find works brilliant, just especially for those top ligaments and sprains in that knuckle that are pretty traditional with punching. All right, so there's that finished piece. Looks good, feels good. It's been on for a couple minutes now. I've adjusted the tension to make sure that the circulation is good. So just be creative, like we said. You can change directions, change positions. As long as you feel supported and stable, then that tape job is worked. Thanks again, guys. I really appreciate everything. If you need any help or any questions, you know where to find me. And as always, I appreciate you taking the time to watch me, and have a great day. See ya.